What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is because people get to know you, they get to see you.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development programme I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated, yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. Boy, you're going to have to pay attention to keep up with the pace of my guest today. Today I interviewed Lynne Darcy Quigley, who is the CEO and founder of Know It. And Lynne is also Insider's top 20, or one of Insider's top 20 women to watch. And she speaks really quickly. She's absolutely passionate, knows what she's talking about, and she's also got a bit of a Scottish accent. So for those of us that aren't Scottish, you are going to have to listen carefully and have your notebook and pen to hand, because there's some gold dust within this from various aspects. Because if you're like most of us as small business owners and you're suffering to keep on top of your cash flow and the people that owe you money and keep track of how many days overdue they are and all of those processes of making sure that you get the money in on time, then the product that Lynne has built and her team have built is going to help you for a start, but also there's some good advice around what you might need to think about doing from the cash perspective. But there's so much more here as well. We touch on strategy, we touch on the people side of things, and Lynne is clearly very good at executing against that strategy as well. So really, really interesting interview here. As I say, you're going to want to take some notes on this. You're going to want to listen to it. So I'm not going to spoil it anymore. Just going to suggest that you go straight over and listen to this discussion with Lynne. If you want to level up your cash management side of things, then obviously take a look at Know It, but you might also want to have a quick look at our Score app and some of the things that we talk about there as well to help you think about your cash habits. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. Today I'm with Lynne Darcy Quigley, who is the CEO and founder of Know It. So Lynne, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Know It. What's Know It all about?
Basically, we wanted to give the SME an even playing field, as it were. So we created Know It on the basis that we would give data to SMEs who don't normally have the luxury of having such enriched data about their credit, about their customer, about profiling, all that nice stuff. Is normally a luxury for an SME, and it's normally in the large PLCs that get access to data like this. So Know It is a credit management platform. We target the SME and we just allow them basically to check it, chase it, collect it, fundamentally to look after their ledger before they give credit, during the credit process, and after the credit process.
Okay, great. And how does it differ then from what else is about that? You mentioned that really SMEs haven't really had access to this data.
Yeah, I think for us, the accessing the data all on the one platform, the SME typically is quite time poor. and not very cash rich. They're working on the job, and time is money. And do they have time to maybe look at 12, 13, 14 different platforms to try and get an outcome out of merging data? It's very difficult, and it's very unrealistic for us to think that that the world needs to continue like that, especially with the environment, the tech environment we live in just now. It's, we should be able to create a place all in the one login where someone can actually run their business from a credit perspective. And I think that's what we've achieved and what we've done. We've brought all of these, things that happen singularly, where you would actually have to have a person really doing that job full time, which is not possible when you're an SME. If you want to hire someone in an SME, you want them to bring revenue and make an impact. You don't want them sitting looking at data all day. Whilst that is very valid, but this platform kind of gives someone that whole overview, one login, one place to see everything that you need to make a really good decision and run your credit business from. Okay,
so if I'm putting myself in the shoes of a business, what would it look like? How would I use it?
Well, right now, phase one for us is allowing customers to use the platform from an accountancy app perspective. So as long as you're using the accountancy apps that we support, your Sage, your QuickBooks, your Free Agent, your Xero, then seamlessly you just connect your data to the platform, and away you go. There's no stopping you at that point. The data is where the journey starts. And then we allow the customers to actually look at their data. What should I be giving them credit? Should I not? Should I give them more? Should I give them less? Should I pull their credit terms? What type of credit relationship do I want to have with that customer today, next year, and the year after? Because companies grow, they get bigger, they get stronger, they also get weaker. So it's having that overview of what your customer is actually doing. So the accountancy data is really critical for us, for the platform to work. Obviously, ScaleUp, would be that we have an enterprise where we have our own API and any customer can use the platform. And that's when we'll start to develop more features and, more and allow them the data to be more enriched. That's certainly on the roadmap for us. But as of today, the platform will allow that SME who's on one of these accountancy apps, I suppose since tax makes digital from the government, they've driven that behaviour in the SMEs. So I think we're sitting about 2.4 million SMEs are actually using accountancy apps. Yep. So currently, that is our client base, that can actually just plug and play, and that's what we want.
Okay, so as a owner of a small and medium-sized business, I can use this as a plug-in essentially to one of those accountancy softwares, and then I can get that data, see that real-time information on whether I can, as you say, extend credit or, but also to chase if I need to chase outstanding
product. Yes, so when your invoice becomes due, out with platform, you would need to do a mail merge or send a single letter or do a manual telephone call or do an SMS or in platform you can do everything. It's all automated. You just basically say set up all your schedules and it just chases everyone automatically. Can I go with the 80-20 rule? I've been in credit management for 27 years. All I've done is debtors, UK and globally. So I'm a really good barometer for how people's behaviours are when they get into the default and the non-payment section. So there's a whole 80-20 rule there. 80% of your customers will probably pay on time and not be that bad. It's the 20% is a killer, and your profit won't sit in 20% of your ledger. People's profit sometimes is running down as low as 2 and 3 and 4 and 5%. So that it's really critical that 20% of that customer base is monitored heavily, and it's chased and it's in a schedule, and it's routined, and you're aware of it. And then if there's anything else going on in the mix, the platform should go, come, Kevin, look at this. Here, this is a problem. Don't worry about the other 3,000 customers that are okay. This little cluster is problems for you. Go fix it. Go do what you need to do. Be aware of it. So I don't think for me, it's not about the customers being worried about every single customer. Yep. It's just giving them the ability to see what their customer is behaving like and how then they should change their behaviour with them. Give them more credit, give them less credit. It's not all the bad stuff. You can go and say, I'm only supplying them £3,000 worth of kit every month and their credit rating's £150,000 a month, why wouldn't I extend my credit a little bit more? So there's a little bit of a business development side in there too, taking the risk, I suppose, a way of giving more credit. So that's what it's all about, the whole chasing piece. And then for me, what I've always found is customers then struggle. What do I do next? I've asked them for money. I've asked them again for money. I've been in contact. I don't want to lose them as a customer. I feel I could do more with them. They're maybe dangling a carrot for more business, or you actually do need them to make your business run, but they're not paying you. So we have that whole pre-litigation, which is the collective piece, where although we're platform driven, quite hands-on, you get an account manager, you get a credit management consultant that holds your hand through that process, where customers do need that bit of advice, that one-to-one, this is what we should do, this is why we should do it. So whilst we are a fintech product, probably about 80% of the journey for us is all in platform. And only if you need us at the back end of the platform, where it comes quite scary for customers, especially in SME. Am I going to lose my money? Much is it going to cost me? Am I going to lose business from them again? There's loads of emotional feelings in an SME when it comes to not being paid. And I suppose we've tried to kind of dehumanise it a little bit with giving them a platform where it takes away the feeling that they need to ask for money.
And that can really be, for an SME, that can really, as you say, that can
massive,
be a whole emotional journey for them, can't it?
It's all emotional. Yeah,
exactly as you say. I know they should be paying me, and it's unreasonable they're not. But equally, I don't want to lose their business. They're important to me, and how do I handle this?
Absolutely, and there's loads of that goes on, and and it goes on with the medium businesses and large businesses, but they can sustain sometimes the loss more than an SME can. I mean, nobody wants to lose money. I'm not suggesting that, but if the inevitable is going to happen, it's going to happen. But I think if you're aware of it and you can get the data, and not too complicated data, because I don't believe in that. The platform is being built from a human perspective. It's human interaction. It's probably what I would have done for 25 years if I'd been phoning a manual ledger on a piece of paper. All we've done is taken a traditional credit control process and we've put it in the cloud. That's all we've done. We haven't, there's no magic to this. This is practicalities. When do I need to get paid? Why do I need to get paid? When am I asking? Should I do business with them? Should I not? It's that whole know your customer piece. A lot of people get seduced by the order value and they can forget fundamentally they need to be paid.
Okay.
And the platform will not allow you to forget, because it keeps you in a process, it keeps you tight, it keeps you neat, it keeps you driven by data, by dates, failure dates, acceptance dates, limits going up and down, warnings.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't not know. That's why we called it Know It, because we feel that what you don't know is right. But if you do know it, we're going to tell you and you go act on it and you'll have a whole better credit outcome, period. You'll reduce your debtor days. You'll increase your cash flow. You can't help but do that when you're in a nice credit control process. Yeah,
and it's we've seen quite a lot. I mean, this particularly for scaling companies, it can often be the cash conversion cycle, the poor cash flow that actually holds you back, can't it? So if you're not managing this properly, then that's just going to make it difficult for growth. And I guess also, we've seen examples, you may the same, where businesses are looking for additional finance because they need some more money. But when you actually look in the business,
it's in your ledger. Yeah, it's always in your ledger. Ledger's always, historically, when people, from, a business and, they're trying to do something or fund something or, maybe hire more staff or buy more product or more equipment, whatever it is they're trying to, whatever the more is for them, it's always in their ledger. And if it's not in their ledger, then they're not selling enough. It's very, very simple. I mean, there's no rocket science there. Yeah. It's either sitting in your ledger or you're not selling enough. It's one or two things. But for me, people don't really understand the value in their ledger. That's where your money is. You go there, make it work for you, reduce your debtor days, get your cash flow increased, and then make your purchase or whatever your plan was can come to life when you make sure your ledger's nice and tidy. So I would expect any user on the platform, if they use it well enough, and if we onboard them properly, which is our absolute, that's the biggest thing for me, is making sure the customers understand the whole onboarding process. You know, what is the journey and what does the data mean to them? Because it's all right giving people facts and figures and numbers and a red and a green and an amber. You know, who cares about that unless it means something to you and it fixes your problem today in your ledger? You're checked out. So, the money is always in the ledger. For me, you go to the ledger, you'll get what you get, you know, and if there's lots of money in there, the platform should allow you to first see where the money is. Second of all, build the payments where it's supposed to be in, and then get it paid.
Excellent. And are there any particular kind of businesses that are going to get the more value out of it than others?
No, there isn't. No, if you produce an invoice and you give credit, you use this.
Yeah.
So we work over every sector. There's not a sector in my full career that I haven't collected money for. It's the same principle. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, who your client base is. You'll always make a silly credit decision because you were seduced by the sale.
Yep.
You know, especially if you're a sales-driven organisation, you know, and it's all about the sale. But then someone needs to get that sale paid. You know, and to make the sale, we need to really decide, do we want to do business with them? Or, yeah, we do want to do business with them, but can we put them on pro forma? Right, that's not going to work, but can we credit insure them? So that's another layer to our platform because we offer credit insurance quotes and we offer invoice finance quotes. So that's another layer to where the customer has choices in their ledger. So the cash can really work for them if they want to take a risk. And the credit insurer is prepared to join the risk with them, they can maybe sell more. They can maybe give more, you know, and they can maybe have more sales and more money. But they also have the security of that credit piece behind them.
Great. So how does the business model work from your perspective? Is it a typical sort of SaaS type model?
Yeah. Yep. So 30 days free trial, you go in, connect your data, connect your ledger, you get everything for free for 30 days. So the point of that is so you can see everything that's going on. You know, you get your data and you get it enriched, you get all your credit applications applied, you get to see who's really good and who's not so good, and you get to see what's going on in the outside world about your customers' behaviour, which is really, 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 really very unique to our platform, is that you actually see how your customer is behaving. So let me try and explain that to you from a layman's perspective. If you are owed £1 million and your customer's customer has just lost 10 million, the inability for that to come down the line is 100% going to happen.
Yep.
And the inability for you to get paid on time is probably dead cert, but you're aware of it. You might still be in the supply chain, so you can cut them off that day. You're getting no more from me. Your risk has just went way beyond risk status for me. You've just lost 10 million, you owe me $1 million. How are you going to pay? You have the conversation quicker. You know, you're aware. Traditionally, you wouldn't know about that. So if you're not in platform, you don't get to see those things. These are things that we've created through the data that we get from the courts, from the gazettes, from from the whole unsecured creditors piece, the court orders, the winding up petitions. This is all the stuff that's normally very, very manual, and you would only see one thing at one time, and often it's too late. You know, you get the proxy in and they're gone and they're bust, and you can't really make an impact because the inevitable was going to happen anyway. That I don't believe that in unsecured creditors. I believe unsecured creditors is that whole early warning piece.
Yeah.
And if you take head, you can make a real impact in your loss.
Yeah. So is it all direct to the individual small business, or are you also going via accountants and bookkeepers?
Yes, accountants and bookkeepers, are they have the SMEs sitting at their fingertips. And if they want to, traditional accountants, and they'll not mind me saying this, is, traditional accountants will say, I don't really want to do the credit control piece. It's very time consuming. We don't have the skill set. We would like to offer it because we see clients doing write-offs. They see losses. The accountants gets a real, albeit it may be a year and a half down the line before they see it, because you don't have to submit it straight away, but they still get an overview of their client's behaviour. Yeah. And this piece could really, really, really help accountants, end user clients to behave better and get their money paid in time and actually have an overview. So, it's really critical for me that if accountants were to take this on in their app stack, is that their customers would benefit massively from it. And even financial institutions, and big organisations that actually have a whole body of members sitting there that actually suffer from late payments massively. FSB is one of them. They're always lobbying for late payments for this and late payments for that, and we want this and we want that. Okay, here's Know It. That will deal. No, I'm not saying it will deal with 100% of the issues, but it will certainly give that customer that overview that they're really missing right now, to actually make that better credit decision and not see a liquidation coming and not making, a bad credit decision.
And as you say, you're kind of almost turning a retrospective accountancy type look into a more proactive, almost forward looking.
And I think accountants want that now. I don't think they're just about filing your accounts anymore. It's not just about that, going and seeing your accountant once a year. The accountants out there they're looking at their app stack. They want to build it. They want to give the tech out there is fantastic for customers. There's no excuse for half the things that people do. There is tech available, to solve. Not saying to solve all the solutions all of the time, but if you can plug something in, and into your environment that allows you to have an overview of whatever it is, your supply chain, your credit chain, whatever it is you want to monitor. The accountants have got the ability to roll that out in mass levels to their clients.
So does that enable you to spot trends that are happening across macro trends across the country, for example? So are you seeing anything now that we should be aware of as we?
I think I'm probably seeing everything that everyone else is seeing. Liquidations are really high, and the losses are huge. We're getting liquidations daily. Our notices coming into clients and telling them you need to watch this. Our alerts are heightened. So the liquidations are coming in thick and fast. And they're not zombie companies by any matter of means. I know the world thinks that, because, or certainly in the UK, from what I hear, is because we've funded the world for the last 3 years through C-bills and RSLs and B-bills and all of that stuff. And we probably did fund a bit of a zombie nation that we aren't going to make it anyway. But it's not just that. There's institutions out there that are, long established institutions, and cash flow and, maybe suppliers going busting them and they didn't see it coming, and overcommitment. And maybe if they've had quite a poor couple of years, which most people have, then maybe their risk appetite is not as good as what it was before. So therefore they're opening up to taking that bit more risk to make more money because of they need to cover these losses. So these are the type of things we see. Industry wise, still your front runners, still construction and engineering and wholesale, still, there's always still, I've been doing this for so long now, construction's always my winner. I can pin a hat on construction, just to, always behave in that certain way. Has it got better over the years? No. There's still David and Goliath between, contractors and subbies. There's still that, can I get paid? Do I want to really annoy them? Do I want to ask for money? Should I just write it off and go to the next job? And, there's all of that. So probably the trends I see is that's been told to me that was coming is absolutely here. It's not coming, it's here. You can see it. You can see the liquidations going up daily. And you can see the court orders. I can see the timelines being pushed out, how quick it's taken someone to get an action in court and then get a liquidator appointed. Those timelines are pushing out 9, 10, 11 weeks. We can't, we're almost stuck at that point. What can you do 12 weeks in? So I can see those things, and I do hope that the platform can maybe make changes to certain clients about that environment. Less liquidations, less failures in businesses because they're making a good decision. So, but obviously, as you know, we're just commercially launched at the tail end of last year. And we're always putting new features and new products in. We probably have about 1,300 users sitting on the platform just now. And we do see their data and we're seeing it every day. It's very early days for us as a business. I would hope to have 10,000 users on by the end of the year. And at that point, we become a really good source of data. How are people behaving? When are they paying? Why are they paying? what industries are more, where is a typical day or day for that industry, and actually go back to the client and say, your peers are actually paying on day 57, but you're not getting paid to day 86 because you're not behaving properly. Use the platform. Let's reduce those timelines for you, get your cash flow, stop borrowing as much money. Or the reverse of that is use the money in your ledger for borrowing, invoice finance it, credit insure it, whatever it needs to be, just to, give them choices.
Good. So you mentioned that you got a 27-year background in the field. What made you decide I think it was 2019, wasn't it, to set up?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO and founder of Darcy Quigley. We are commercial debt recovery UK and global. That business has been running for 17 years. I set that up in 2006 because that I have always done that. Debt recovery litigation was always my career. And then when I was 28, I thought, I could really do this better. I think that was the entrepreneur in me, just saying I could do it better, I could do it slicker, I would have more of a relationship with my clients. I'm just actually going to go out on my own. And I did that. But in 2019, we were just kind of toiling with Darcy Quigley was running a bit like a Swiss watch, but we were kind of seeing, for me, the trends where this element of SME that we didn't really deal with in Darcy Quigley, because we deal with more the medium to large PLCs, but we could also always see the debtors were always SMEs. They were always the one that were getting sued. They were always the one that was losing the money. They were always the ones that you were getting battered down at the bottom of the supply chain. Yeah. And I suppose a bit of a crusade for me is no matter who you are, what you are, you need to get paid. You deserve to be paid. You've worked hard for that. That's yours. It's your money. You're entitled to get paid. So it was a wee bit of a crusade project for me, Kevin. I've got to be honest. I'm not going to say I was bored in Darcy Quigley. I wasn't, but I was just a bit like, I love the idea of tech. I made Darcy Quigley completely paperless in 2015, wrote a full database, never took a bit of paperwork ever again. And that was quite tough for us because we always had solicitors' letters, bailiff reports, sheriff officers' reports. Were quite all the clients' invoices, their accounts and stuff like that. So it was always a very, very heavy paper environment. And I thought, I'm going to use tech to simplify this and make sure and I did. And that's where I got the tech bug from, I have to say. Okay. And I thought, I'm going to revolutionise my business, which I've done. And then we just seen all the fundamental mistakes SMEs were making through our business model in Darcy Quigley. And I thought, I'm going to do something but this is the funny bit, and anybody who's listening to this out there who's came from an entrepreneurial background, I was like, we'll just take us 6 months, we'll write it really quickly, and I'm really good at this. I'll be an expert, and I'll just hire a couple of guys, a couple of techie people out there, because I'm not techie. I'll just hire some tech guys, and they'll write me some codes, and Bob's your uncle. Well, no, 2.5 years later, labour of love, still building it, still hiring staff, but COVID hit. And Darcy Quigley just stopped overnight. Right. Because we are litigators, we weren't allowed to petition, wind up, bankruptcy. Yeah. The debtors had protection. Yeah. A lot of clients just stopped themselves. So our business kind of just went on a pause. And that gave me probably the best part of 2 years actually to just work and know it. And that's what I did. Okay. I worked in creating an outstanding platform, in my opinion, that would allow, customers to have the access to data that they don't have. So that's why I started it, to give that, that back to the SME. So
excellent. And that not only taking a lot of time, I would imagine that's taken a fair bit of money as well.
Yes, it has, and it's all been self-funded. Darcy Quigley has paid for it. And I've paid for it myself, which is fine. And I think I'll continue to do that, if I'm being honest. I think but I'm in a very, very fortunate position. I'm not your startup SME that doesn't have any cash. Yeah. But I would say that's a good thing and a bad thing.
Okay, why is it a bad thing?
Because, well, first of all, I'm using my money.
Yes.
Second of all, I'm not really answerable to anyone.
Right.
Other than me. It's my purse, my money. And I suppose it's my ball and I can do what I want with it and I can create the platform I've always wanted. I can over engineer it, which I've done. I can add too much to it because I can do that. Whereas I think I would be slimmer and faster if I was investor led. And I can absolutely own that. Today I can own that and say, I probably the business wouldn't be where it is today if I had been investor led. But I'm okay with that.
So you think, sorry, when you say it wouldn't be where it is today if you're investor led, but in a good way or a not so good way, what do you mean? Where would it be?
I think we probably went to market quicker.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Fundamentally, I probably wouldn't have made the mistakes that I've made in terms of maybe not hired the right people in the business, maybe not made the right tech decisions, maybe not hired the right staff. It's always the staff. No matter what, if you don't have the right staff to make the right, and bearing in mind that I have no idea anything about SaaS, tech, product, cloud, any of those things. I mean, I'm well embedded into it now.
Yep.
But I learned on the job. So although I had a very traditional business that was very successful, and I could run a business no problem, and I'll run this business no problem too. It's just getting all the fundamental things in place that I took for granted in Darcy Quigley because I had done it and went through the pain and actually forgot about the pain.
Right.
I suppose some of the mothers out there will address it to child labour, when you go in and have number two, number three. You forget that it was so horrendous the first time. So, I'm absolutely, I wear that badge with honour. I forgot, 17 years I was younger. I didn't have as much risk. I was a young woman. I didn't have any family. Risk was everything. It didn't bother me. Whereas when I started Know It, I'm an older woman now. etc. It comes. Everything's all relevant. To where you are. So, but I would say if I was investor led, I think they would be more demanding of where we have to be. Yep. But I don't necessarily think that they would make the right decisions for the business for the reasons that I've done it.
Okay, so take me through it because I think that's an interesting point that I've come across before. Is that mindset difference? So take me through what you mean by that.
Right. Okay. So very early on, and I did start speaking to investors last year, and I always made a pact that I wouldn't ask for any money out there until I had a product that was in market and I could actually prove that it works. I always had faith. I always knew it would work. But proof of concept was huge for me, and getting that, not for anyone else other than me, to say that the platform can actually work. And when the product was ready and when I went out to start speaking to investors, it was all about when are you exiting? Yeah. And I couldn't think of anything worse. I was at the start of an awesome journey, as I seen it, and a global journey because it's not just the UK for me. And it was continuously being asked of me, what's your exit strategy? When will the investor get their money back? When's this? And I'm thinking, we were just very different. Yeah. And maybe I didn't speak to the right investors, or maybe I didn't get the right investor for me at that point to speak to. So there might be a lot of things that play, down that whole investment route. But because I don't have to, Kevin, I'm not forced into doing anything. But that has its good and its bad points, is what I've just explained. There's the fact that there's no one saying, what's going on, Lynne? Come on, let's do this, let's do that. We need to get users on, we need to do this. But, I've got that natural ability to behave like that anyway. I don't need anyone else telling me. That's probably where I'm really good at, is driving revenue and driving money and driving sales. That's my bag. I like that, so I work in that area most of the time. The tech's not really of any interest to me. Right. Yep. It's just a medium, just a route to getting to where you want to get to. It absolutely is for me. Yes. It's just a way to get it quicker and slicker, but it doesn't, I'm not excited about the tech as such. I love it because I feel that it's absolutely, awesome, and it's the right place to be, and it's where everybody should be, that digital adoption piece for me needs to be really, really high within the SME, and it's not. And I'm hoping things like Tax Making Digital and Know It and all these other SaaS products can make that digital adoption really high and get the SME out of the old way of behaving and into the new tech. But for me, sales and marketing is that's where I work most of my. If somebody's to say to me, where do you work the most in your business? Front end, sales and marketing, all day long.
Okay,
that's where I spend most of my time.
All right, and what you just made me think about it. But what is your overall purpose? What is your what is your mission? What are you trying to really achieve with Know It? Because you're driven by, I can see you're driven by this passion. So how do you define it?
It's just getting paid. Everyone's entitled to be paid in time, and it's fundamentally at the end of the credit journey is where I'm most passionate about. Is getting paid. You need to be able to be paid. You do the work. Whatever that takes. That lead to sales time is so expensive, and it's such a big part of a business. And then not to be paid is just criminal for me. And that's the same throughout the world globally, because I work in global collections. So it's the same problem in Nigeria and in France, in Spain, in Dubai. It's the same. It makes no difference. So, getting paid or not getting paid is no barriers. For me. It happens everywhere.
And are you focusing on those 1,300 users you've got a minute? Are you focusing on the UK to start with?
Yes, yeah. So UK for us, yes, but we've got an IP for Australia, New Zealand and Canada at the moment. Australia's probably next step for us, and we're planning to probably be there by the end of this year. If we can do it. It all depends on cash flow. At the end of the day, we need the users that are on the platform to pay for our growth. I want to kind of step away from being the purse for the business now. When we get the money out of the platform, we get the users to pay for the next step of the journey. And also by us scaling up the platform, adding new features, that's new revenue streams. I am not adding a feature to this platform unless it's giving me revenue. That's the way we go forward now. It's so enriched with features that we need to actually look at where's the value in that feature for that client. Would they pay for it? Are we bringing real value? Yes, we are. Right. Okay. Well, that's what's on the roadmap. Then let them have it, but they need to pay for it. Because it will give them X, Y, and Z in their ledger and so on and so forth. So I think it's a global product. It doesn't have to stop in the UK. It's huge plans, but still huge plans, huge foresight, but still in the day-to-day.
Yeah, and does every country, because the way that I was envisaging from what you were saying is that you're pulling data in for different data sources, different data sets. So every time you go to a different country, does that require you to pull in the national data sets?
Yes. So the thing with Australia, New Zealand and Canada, the reason we chose them is because they're Commonwealth. They use very, very similar data sets from us.
Right.
So we've already built the platform. The platform was always going to go to those countries from day one. It was never built as a UK product, which is great because it's something I don't need to revisit. It was always, if I go back to the original scoping document of the platform, for me, it was always a global product. I was never just going to build it for here.
Yeah.
It was always going to be that. So, yes, but we have all our data partners sitting waiting, and we've built the platform for it. So, we have discussions about this every week, maybe a week or 2 weeks of development for us to be in that country. It's not the platform, it's more the marketing and the setup and the scale in these countries. That's where I feel that we need to work really hard, and I think the platform just speaks for itself. Pulling the data sources in, I don't see that as a barrier. I see the barrier being, how do we sell it? What's the marketing look like? How do they want to be spoke to in those countries? Because it'll not be the same as in the UK.
Okay. And while you've raised it, what is your most successful route for marketing within the UK then? What are you finding is working for you?
Okay, so we've got a real hybrid agency vibe going on in the office. That stems from Darcy Quigley, and I'll tell you where it came from. Just using agencies over the years, just being super ineffective and not really understanding the heartbeat of your business and your brand. So I just decided to create a hybrid agency of all the skill sets inside my office.
Okay.
And that's what I have. So I have content, I have digital, I have SEO, I have PPC, I have, all the marketing tools that everyone in the outside world would use from a marketing perspective. We are super aggressive in terms of marketing, and we've got our finger in every pie. And that's really what we needed. The only thing that we ever outsource from our office is PR. But everything else we do internally. So we can create paid leads, we buy marketing data, we do everything, and we're always, doing things like this podcast. We're always, big educational piece. We've got a lot to give back, within the business. All of us have been doing it for such a long time. So got a lot to give back to the new business entrepreneurs that are coming up through the ranks. This is how to do it. This is what not to do. These are the mistakes. Try and avoid them.
Yeah, and I definitely want to push you on some of the mistakes and things. You mentioned a couple of things that you might have done differently, or whatever. The marketing decision. This comes up a lot with clients that we talk to. Questions as to, should I outsource all my marketing, or should I invest in somebody internally? And
always internal for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the reasons, but how would you help somebody's thinking around that?
I think when you agency, right, what they're going to give you, for me, they're not in your business every day. They maybe have 50, 60 clients that they're dealing with. How do they home in your messaging in your business and your ideal customer? How can they be part of your business every single day? The reality is they can't. They don't sell that anyway. But the reality is they're not part of it. Yeah. They are, and as well, they might want to say they are, but they're just not. If you have someone in your business that's embedded in your thinking, your process, they feel everything you do, everything the business does, whether it's good or bad, they feel it. They see every result, good or bad. And there's nothing better than having someone in-house for me, because then they're part of the journey with you. They're just not a fee note, and you're just not a fee note to them.
Yeah. And one of the arguments for, or the questions, is also around, specialist expertise. So, can we afford to have a specialist in SEO, a specialist in pay-per-click, specialist in content, and all those things? Whereas if I go to an agency, they've probably got those specialists. Although I might, So what would you say around that?
Well, I would say it's probably true. And certainly if you're, in the new business startup arena and scale, money is, you don't have the money. And, I've made a huge investment in marketing over the years. So I'm probably in a unique situation where I've got choices. Yeah. Whereas if I had been a single startup, probably agency would be the way I would go, because I don't have the money to hire 5 or 6 different people, to do those. So I get it. They do have a place. But I would just say if I was a scaling business, I would hire that resource, and just build a loyal team. Yep. That loyal team that understand and breathe your business every day, and they know if they do anything, the impact, good or bad, will have in the business.
Great. And what are your most successful marketing tactics? What's your main thrusts to find new clients? What works?
Yeah, I would say, obviously, because we're on all the we're on all the app stores, because we're Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, and Free Agent. So we've got a good relationship with all of the app providers, and then we just do traditional marketing. So email marketing, we do all the paid ads, we do Google and all the things that you would expect. SEO. We enrich all our content and our data. Our website's really strong. We're always auditing it and making sure that everything's fine, and our content's really up to date. We're always reposting. Social's huge for us. We're always over all our socials and posting all the time, and a lot of giving backs. We do a lot of white papers, a lot of downloads, stuff like that. We have that whole educational piece as well, because we are a new platform, but we've all been doing, I've been doing it for a long time. A lot of the staff in here have been too. So, that education bit's massive for us. So we cover everything. There's not anything that we don't do. And I think all of it together strengthens each area. So if we were weak in socials, would our email marketing work so well? No, it wouldn't, because they power each other. Yep. And if we didn't buy data and subscribe to certain bits of software, we do a lot of spy software and a lot of content driven, and we look at all our SEO and stuff like that. If we didn't do that, would our website be as strong? It's all cause and effect in marketing. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, it's took me a long, long time to get that down to a fine art. It has, and I'm not going to lie, and it was nothing to do with Know It. We've done it all in the DQ piece, but the luxury I have is I've just got a blueprint for Know It now.
Great.
Same customer, same problem, same issue, same marketplace, just a different proposition because it's in the cloud.
Very good. So you mentioned a few times about mistakes, maybe things you'd have done differently, and a lot of it, even though you're saying you're saying it's a technology business, but it's not about the technology, it's about the people. So take us through maybe some of the challenges you've had as you've gone from 2019 to now.
Yeah, I think when you're in a startup, having been out of a startup and been in a traditional business, I learned very, very quickly to hire staff, trust, give them the responsibility and let them run with it.
Okay.
And I'm quite good at that. I'm quite good at, dispersing responsibility. I'm not, I don't know what they say, but, I'm not a hogger of tasks, as it were. I'm quite happy to, delegate, share the load, allows people's expertise to kick in. But I know who that person is within the traditional business model. I had made my mistakes. I had learned who they were. I had them down to kind of a bit of a fine art. I understood the characters and where they worked well in different departments. No, I was a complete still I'm a bit of a fish out of water, I have to admit. I hired people on the basis of my old mind. Right. My old traditional mind, not my fintech mind. Okay. And some of the things that I've tried to do within the fintech business, you get a lot of resistance because it's not how it's done in the fintech world. Whereas, that's from a staff perspective, because I've hired from the fintech community. And then you realise, they actually behave in a certain way and they do things a certain way because the technology perhaps makes them make different decisions, whereas technology didn't make any of my decisions.
Can you give us an example of that different thinking?
So for instance, if I'm hiring a dev team, I bring them in and they say, I can write code, I can do this, I can make the platform. Like, okay, great. That sounds as if you know what you're doing because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
I'm going to trust you because your CV is really strong and you look as if, and you're telling me you're mapping it out and everything looks fantastic. But then fundamentally you realise that they have never run a business in their life and they're making decisions based on what the code says. And that's not right. And it took me a wee while to learn that. Okay. That, they don't, from a technical perspective, sometimes they don't see the end-to-end journey. Whereas in a traditional business, I think it's very easy to see the end-to-end journey because there's so many people involved in the journey. Whereas I think it's quite segmented in the tech. You do this because you're back end and you write really good back end code. You do this because you're front end, or you do this because you're a tester, and you do this because you're UX and UI. But you don't see any real flow in between them all. Whereas in a traditional business, if you don't sell something right and then you go to sue, you can't have that. That there's friction in the deal, and the client knows about it and the staff know about it. Whereas you don't see that when you're building a platform. So that's one thing I've had to completely change my behaviour when I'm in the Know It business versus the Darcy Quigley business. I'm almost two different people. I behave differently. I speak differently. I've got different goals.
So what do you do differently then? Because there's that, there's, and it's that also part of it seems to me, that balance between good delegation but abdication, because you could easily say, well, you're the expert in the code, I don't know anything about it, as you say, so just get on with it, but that's clearly just abdication. Right. So how have you changed then, and how do you balance that?
Okay, so I think when I'm in the Know It, sometimes it's quite a detached state of, as a matter of fact, it's very process driven. The tech says this, the tech does that, and this is the output. It's always a start and an output. There's always lots of timelines. There's always story points, and even the language is very different. I had to learn a whole new language. my normal Scottish language was no longer any good. I had to learn Scottish fintech language, whatever that is, but I'll label that.
Skin tech or something, yeah.
I don't know. I honestly, I had to learn, what is, what's the language of the codes, what is, what does a story point mean? I had to learn all these things. What is that? And it's just the way that they schedule their work and how they schedule, we're on a 2-week sprint. Okay, but can we not do it today? Because in my other business, I can walk in and go, right, let's do this, do that, cause and effect, and it happens in a heartbeat. There's no red tape. There's nothing that we need to worry about. It's very, very slick. Whereas when I come into the product, the Know It product, I was like, oh, I can't really make change that quick. So I had to change my pace because I'm fast and always want change rapid. Because kind of a bit like, if you see it, change it, fix it, don't just leave it. I found that very difficult, and they didn't believe it, they didn't behave the same way as me. So
let's put it in the roadmap, and
yes, we'll get to it. No. I was like, what? We'll get to that. I mean, I was in a cold sweat thinking, when are we getting to that? And why is it got to do with story points and end points and a sprint and that? So yeah. And people might think that really funny because I didn't know anything about that. I have run a business, a successful business for many years now. And I probably just took it for granted, Kevin, if I'm being honest. I just took it for granted that my skill set would just completely apply to Know It no matter what. And it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't, so I've learned a lot, made a few mistakes. And I think I'm still massively learning. Even today I had a meeting before I spoke to you this morning. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like I have these moments where I go, okay, I need to change my behaviour and my thinking.
Yeah.
And then I need to think about the problem a different way.
So we're always being curious and learning all the time.
Massively.
Yeah.
To a fault sometimes, actually.
Yeah, right. And you made me think about something with the recruitment stuff and the hiring side of things, because you're hiring people with skills that you're not an expert in.
No idea.
There's quite a few of us as business owners that sometimes don't even do that. It may not be in tech. It may be actually in marketing. We may not be a marketing expert. So how do you know whether somebody is pulling the wool over your eyes or whether they really are able to do what they've said they can do on this?
Oh my God, if I knew that, I think I would be tired. I think everybody has game face for an interview. You can only just get, the faith with the person that, and do your research, and try and over the years, I've learned to see things beyond seeing it. I've made the mistake and I've decided I'm not making it again. I think that's, I've learned massively from my mistakes. Don't get me wrong, I still do some really silly things sometimes. I go, that's like repeat. You shouldn't have done that because you've already seen that happening, but it maybe came to you in different circumstances. But where the tech's concerned, last year, this was probably kind of life-changing for me and the product, but I hired a head of product, and she came from 20 years experience in SaaS, and just having her alone just changed me and the business overnight, because I had someone that I could just go, is that right? And, and she'll say to me, is that right? Because she doesn't know my world. She doesn't know the credit world and doesn't know, the fundamentals that makes a really good credit report, and, a beautiful complement with each other. But if I didn't have her, I think I would still be bumbling about making quite costly mistakes, I think, so there's critical hires. And someone actually said to me, because when I first started the fintech out, it was like, oh, you need to get your C-level suite sorted out. And they're so expensive. Get your get your CTO and get your CMO and get your this and that. And I was like, okay. And then I was speaking to, I was out at, doing something in Edinburgh. I was on a panel doing a discussion. I've been invited to, speak about debt recovery and credit within tech, and I was supposed to be the expert, in the room. No idea about tech, but I could talk about credit and debt all day long. And I heard them talking about, from a product perspective, where do you get that product to be aligned with a business. So the product's one thing, but then you need to monetize it and turn it into a business, and you need the people to help you do that, and you need someone that straddles between the business and the tech.
Yep.
And it's like, right, okay, so I can straddle, but I have no idea what's over the fence. Right, so I can straddle between both businesses, but I'm really lost in the other side of the fence. I have no idea what's going on in there.
You can sit on top of the fence, but you can't jump down into the other side.
I can jump if I want, but it's going to cost me a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to make loads of mistakes, right? And I've done it. I've jumped several times, but that's me, and I think that's your entrepreneurial spark. That's what makes you jump, because that's what you need to do. That's why you're here. You're here to do that. There's people that won't jump. We will. Entrepreneurs will always jump. So I kind of thought, right, can I get who that person needs to be? Do they exist? So I had to kind of ask about, is there such a person? They were like, yeah, they're called head of product. They normally straddle between the business. And I was like, perfect. So I had a total light bulb moment, so things have really changed massively for me. Big hire, big bill, big wage bill, but you couldn't put a number to that.
Yeah.
Couldn't put a number to that, because for me, that was just another version of me, but at the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be your key critical hire advice for somebody doing a tech, fintech type product, or even any kind of technology business, would be to find that head of product as soon as you can afford them.
I think so. Yeah, I think so, because they align the business aspirations. Because what I found before she was here is the business was super ambitious and the tech was away at the back end.
Yeah.
The tech was playing catch up with my business mind, my plans.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to run, and then I realised the code in the platform couldn't run as fast as me. So there's a lot of frustration in there. And then I realised once, the head of product was here and in situ, that it was all about communication. What does the business want to do? Right? How do we achieve that through tech? How do we achieve the business's aspirations and the timelines it will? And then we just became together. There was a plan. There was the roadmap just was no longer a place where code went to die, in my opinion. The roadmap was actually, it was in line with what the business wanted to actually do and not what the tech wanted to do.
Yeah. Brilliant. Good. I'm fascinated. I could talk to you for hours. With loads more questions, but I certainly would like to bring it back to, you've been identified as one of Insider's one of the top 20 women to watch.
Yeah.
So what do we need to watch out for in the next 5 years from you? What does that look like?
World domination, Kevin. I'm not going to be shy about that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be shy about being hugely ambitious. I'm not going to do that, because I think, being a woman first and foremost, but I'm equally not going to do the whole, women's right thing. I think I've got here because I know what I'm doing.
Yep.
I don't think it's anything to do with whether I'm a man or a woman, really. I've never been unfairly treated because I've not allowed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine.
So I think it just, there's a character thing there, isn't there?
Right.
If that's your hat, you need to wear it. Whereas, I'm just like, I'm not wearing that hat. I'm a business person, woman, man, it makes no difference. So world domination for us. Yeah, I think Australia is very firmly in our sights. And yeah, just, I want to have a fantastic, cohesive working environment where people actually come to work and go, wow, I love being here. I'm part of it. I love the culture. I want to be, I would love to say I would want to be a unicorn. Yeah. I don't see why we can't be. But I do think I need a lot of help.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the one woman superwoman. I don't really think that at all. Yeah. I do think I will need a lot of help, but not help staff. I need to build that as we grow. We build the right people round about us. The right expertise.
And how will you go about maintaining that culture as you scale, as you do have more and more people?
I think I'll hire people like me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'll try my hardest. Where possible. Yeah. Same values. Same moral compass.
Yeah.
Everybody, you've got to have values and moral compass. For me, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Everybody has a start. A start for me. You need to be lots of self-awareness. Who am I? What can I bring to the table? Is my moral compass really set where it should be? What is my mission? And entrepreneurial people, I want to hire entrepreneurs in my business. We all need the people who are nice and stable, but there's nothing better than having entrepreneurial spark within your team.
Brilliant.
Keeps you on your toes.
So you're right for one or two quick fire questions before we wrap?
Of course.
Great. So this should be a fun one. If you could go back to your younger you, what would your advice be?
Oh my God. Do it quicker.
Right. Doesn't sound like you've hung around very much. But you mean start your own, start the fintech business.
Yeah. I think I missed probably a good 5-6 years of the fintech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in 2015 when I got the appetite for Lynne Darcy Quigley, I should have done the fintech right there.
Right.
So I probably could have been 4 or 5 years ahead of the curve, or maybe even sooner than that. That's just what I realise in my brain. But I think I could have been quicker.
Okay, good. Any books, podcasts, other sorts of resources that you found really useful that you can recommend?
Oh my God, I am the worst person to ever ask that question to.
Okay.
Stephen Bartlett, I'm quite inspired by him because I like marketing and sales. I like brands. I like things to look and feel right. I like the messaging to be right. So I do listen to his podcast, and I've just recently started listening to Oprah Winfrey. Just so I can actually get out my own mind and get to sleep at night. Yeah. Because I've got so much going on. So I would say, that's a bit as far as it goes.
Brilliant. Good. Now, obviously, apart from Know It, but what apps do you find really useful within?
Oh my God! So day to day, Calendly, like you witnessed today, is huge for me. Organising all my calendars because I run 2 separate businesses and my time's just wild. Yeah. So I use Calendly. I'm always on that. I use Bright HR so I can keep track of staff off and on site, off site. I'm using that all the time. LinkedIn. I get loads of connections and loads of chat and loads of content and stuff. I'm always Twitter, the same. I'm always on that too. I'm just looking at my phone just now, going. I'm always looking at my banking app as well, Kevin, to see how much money I'm actually spending and Know It. Yeah, that's just a bit of humour there. So listen, I've got my phone is full of apps. I live in an app world, which is great.
Yeah, fantastic.
Salesforce, I'm always looking at Salesforce app. That's probably my biggest driver. Always looking at all my reports, seeing all my end day reports, all my start of day reports, all my stats, my payouts, my P&L, everything. I use Xero. So Xero's on my phone too. So I'm a big Xero advocate. I'm always looking at cash flow and projections and money and
Very good. You've already mentioned Stephen Bartlett. I was going to ask you who's had the most influence on you as a business leader. Would it be him or would it be somebody else?
No, I think he's very early days. He's just a kid, isn't he? I think probably 2 people, 2 old bosses that I worked with when I first started out. One of them actually learnt me my craft, learnt me how to be commercially aware, commercial debt recovery litigation. And I worked for her for about 7 years, but she equally also told me how, she didn't tell me because she probably wouldn't like that, but equally told me how to do things differently and better.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Just being in her environment. So she learned me my craft, which I absolutely hats off. Awesome. Yeah. But again, there was also the sense of, wow, I could really do this.
Okay, yeah, so, good.
A bit of both. And then, one of the other leaders I went to work for just in a project, and I worked in the States, and I was all over the place, and he gave me the opportunity to be entrepreneurial, but the risk wasn't attached, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And that's when I learned to actually run a business, understand a P&L, understand profit, understanding sales, very sales-driven organisation, what the value of a sale was, how marketing, so early on in my days, I think I was a proper sponge. I just learned loads of stuff and just spent loads of time in that area. As a business owner now, I think my team inspire me every day. I take things for them. I have SMTs every day. I have catch-ups. I go on stand-ups. That's where I get my inspiration from, because they're pulling it from their sources and I just take it from them.
Yeah. Excellent. Really good. Excellent stuff. Absolutely fascinating. And
thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
If people would like to get hold of you or find out more about Know It, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, okay. So they can, if they're using LinkedIn, they can just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always there. So you can get my profile, send a connection, or just go onto the website. It's www.knowit.co.uk, and they can go on and get a free trial for 30 days. And we've got a whole onboarding process. We've got a customer success manager that we just walk them through the process. We're everywhere. If you want to go into Facebook, you'll find us there. We're everywhere we need to be. Just go online, just Google us. So, yeah.
Super. Lynne, thank you very much indeed for being my guest today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.